YouTube Valor community, Manfred Mann fans, random people on the internet. My name is Giggens, and we're here today to talk about the Manfred Mann album, the debut album in America, released through Ascot Records in September of 1964. And this album for me is something I've always wanted to hear, and I was luckily enough able to grab a copy fairly recently. Do Wah Diddy is a song we all know by these guys, and it was a #1 smash in 1964, basically because the British invasion brought all these great groups to America, and all these songs became top 10 hits. But this is a giant song for them, and it was definitely their breakout. You know, they had a couple of hits in England, but nothing too big, and then when Do Wah Diddy came out, that changed everything for them. But what's funny, too, is that their singles were always a bit more poppy, whereas their albums were a lot more bluesy R&B. So they've always been a band I've wanted to dive deeper into, and I know a decent amount about their history, but you know, only fairly recently have I gotten like really involved with playing these guys and learning about them. And they are just top-notch players. I mean, from top to bottom, these guys are R&B, blues rock virtuosos. The whole band is made up of super talented guys. And this album really showcases that. I absolutely love this album. You know, if you've never heard this thing and you know Do Wah Diddy, take what you know about Do Wah Diddy and erase that, and then imagine an insanely cool blues R&B band. I mean, look at Manfred with that beard. I mean, look at these guys. They are the epitome of beatnik. They're so damn cool. But yeah, it's funny because in England, their first album in England was called The Five Faces of Manfred Mann. And so in America, they took 11 of those 12 songs and made this album. And then the second album in America was also called The Five Faces of Manfred Mann, but a whole different album compared to the first one in England with that same name. So, you know, leave it to America to always change things up and make things confusing. But yeah, I mean, Do Wah Diddy went to #1 in October of 1964, and they had a couple more big hits, you know, in the first era of this group, the Paul Jones era of the group, up until 1966 when Mike Deodato came in and Klaus Voormann and a few other people were the second wave of Manfred Mann up until about 1969, 1970. But this early version of the group is absolutely fantastic. And Paul Jones's vocals, I mean, he is right up there in terms of like anybody you can think of who can just really do that raw blues R&B thing, like early Roger Daltrey or Eric Burdon from The Animals or the Small Faces, like all those groups that had that sort of similar sound. But I love this album. It's a ripper from start to finish. And yeah, so we opened up with Do Wah Diddy, which we all know and love. It's a song that you grow up with knowing that song. And it was always one of those tracks that I loved. And hearing it in context with this album is almost jarring because the rest of the album has nothing to do with that sound. Which is funny because like that's how they were known. So it may have been a surprise for kids buying this album in 1964 to be like, man, I love Do Wah Diddy. Can't wait to hear 11 more songs like that. And you put the rest of the album on and you're like, whoa. What is this R&B blues stuff? I all of a sudden want to grow a beard and wear a turtleneck sweater. Like, it must have changed a lot of people's lives. And it sold pretty well. I mean, the single did a lot better, I suppose. But, I mean, it's just a great song. Paul's excited lead vocals, the charging drums that are all over this thing, the romanticism, the youthful energy and spirit. The whole thing's just palpable of, like, being young and in love. And the whole thing gives you all the imagery of, like, you know, when you're growing up and discovering who you like, and it just got that feeling to it. It's a song that crosses generations forever because it's always going to be a catchy song. You know, I really feel like once a song is a good song, it doesn't matter when it came out, people will always enjoy it. But yeah, it was always meant to be a #1 hit. It's got #1 hit written all over it. So good job, guys. And then we take a whole different journey into this group and what they're really made of, with a song called Don't Ask Me What I Say, and it sounds like Can I Get a Witness, and I really love that, but it's R&B to the core. I mean, Paul's slightly raspy voice gives it just the right amount of gruff and texture to kind of give it some dirt, where the song already has a bit of that anyway, but Paul's voice really gives it that little bit more push to give them that authenticity of like, we're a really good R&B band. But when he growls out lines like "You make my heart feel sick," I was like, whoa, what an awesome line. But the way they produce this cool, sly, easy rolling piano and the drums and the whole production is a really good R&B burner. Excellent song. Sac a whoa, horn and harmonica blending together. I love that combination. Very Ray Charles in the piano playing. It's just an instrumental amazingness. It's a song that begs for you to listen to it and doesn't disappoint. Love this track. And the vibraphones. There's lots of vibraphones on this album as well, which I think are great. But What You Gonna Do, the fourth song on here, it sounds like the Animals, and I'm all for it. The eeriness to it, the really punchy articulation from everyone. Everyone's on point with this song, and they are in all the songs, but there's something magical about the presentation on this one that's just really direct and succinct. But the keyboard work underneath it all is so expertly well crafted. I mean, Manfred Mann is an amazing keyboardist, and this song really demonstrates that. I'm Your Hoochie Coochie Man. Everyone's done it. My band did it. I mean, it was one of those songs where, like, if you were in a band that played blues rock sometimes, you were going to play this song at some point. And I really like how it lets everyone join in and kind of jam. And Mike Vickers gets a guitar solo on it, which is great. It's just one of those songs that everyone knows and everyone really enjoys, and they play it so expertly. And then Smokestack Lightning. I mean, just follow it up with another classic here, but, the tension building, lots of dynamics, and they do a great job of showing off the quieter moments and then really build to the big, exciting moments. It's a display of fine musicianship. They really knew how to do their stuff. Side 2 opens up with Got My Mojo Working. Again, a Muddy Waters classic that we all know and love, but they do their take on it so damn well. The drums really keep this one up. It's such an upbeat, propulsive song that feels like a non-stop freight train just blasting through a building over and over again. Paul's voice is just gritty and eager. The whole track screams youthful energy and loving the blues and R&B. Love this one. There's a tenacity to this song that you just can't deny. It's going to work out fine as the next track on here. And a little bit more of a calmer track. Kind of lets the bass take over a little bit. And the keyboards, they have their moments to shine on this track for sure. But Paul's voice does a great job of being a bit more smoother, but comes up just at the right moment. So again, really great moments of a little bit quieter, then really exciting. So it's a song that grabs you. It's just a really fascinating song. It's nothing static about it, if you will. It should have been a single, if you ask me. I think it's a great track. Down the Road a Piece, another song everyone else did, but the Rolling Stones did a good version of this one too. But I really love how the Manfreds do it on this one. The saxophone solo blending with the harmonica, whoever came up with that idea in the group was a genius because it feels really, really good and it just sounds really good. But another Mike Vickers guitar solo and that boogie woogie piano underneath it all is perfect. Untie Me, another kind of moody track on this one, and the cymbal work here is fantastic. I really, really love that piano riff, and it's just kind of a somber track, and for me, it reminds me a little bit of Not a Second Time by the Beatles once they get to the more instrumental parts of the song. The solo is a little reminiscent of Not a Second Time, but kind of a slow dancer song, if you will. Bring It to Jerome. This song's really cool. Back to that rock and R&B goodness, and I like the dropouts, the repetition, the punchy harmonica. It's just an upbeat jammer of a song, and the bass is great on this one too. And then Without You, an original composition by Paul. The creeping rhythm, the shakers in the background, that vocal growl, and the piano and guitar jamming together, and then a flute solo. And maybe the flute solo inspired Wild Thing a couple years later, but who knows? And then another xylophone solo. It's just kind of an unexpected R&B blues track, if you will. But yeah, I really, really enjoy this album. This is a mono copy. It's an original, and it was something I've always wanted to pick up, especially just because of how cool these guys look. But not really knowing too much about them at the time, and then finally being able to hear this thing was great. And again, you guys know how I like when people write on stuff. This one for me really set it home. Someone wrote Christmas 1964 up there. Absolutely love that. Someone got that for a present, 1964. And they loved it. And this copy's a little scratchy, but it's really not too bad. It sounds pretty good. I mean, there's a couple of clicks and pops here and there, but that's why I like vinyl. But there's the old Ascot label. The Manfred Mann album by Manfred Mann. So yeah, I really enjoy discovering things that can be surprising. So, going into this band And I know they changed a lot over the years. They did, Quinn the Eskimo a few years later, the Dylan song, and then eventually it became Manfred Mann's Earth Band and put out Blinded by the Light, which is one of my most hated songs of all time. So it's amazing how this band shifted and grew over the years. But yeah, love this album. I really, really recommend it. For me, it's a 9 out of 10, hands down. There's not 1 second of filler on this thing at all. It's a blues burner, up and down R&B perfection. They really nailed it with this one. They had a good thing going for sure. They were just a group of super talented dudes who found each other, and they really gelled with each other like musicians who have played with each other for 100 years. They really knew how to make it happen. So yeah, that's it. 9 out of 10. No problem with the Manfred Mann album by Manfred Mann. There you go. My name is Giggens. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and that's it. See ya.